Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Hana, Evolutionary Astrologer, and in this video, let's talk about the upcoming full moon on July 29th because this full moon is on steroids. There's a lot going on this day on July 29th, and a lot of players are coming to this full moon party. So let's break this down and unpack piece by piece. First of all, this full moon is happening at the 6th degree of Aquarius. And right next to the moon is the planet Pluto and the asteroid Juno. They're sitting right there in Aquarius too. And directly opposite from them, we see the sun, we see Jupiter, and we see the asteroid Hygiea in Leo. So this axis, Leo Aquarius, is very, very active. And this full moon is also our last lunation before the eclipse season officially begins. So the eclipses are going to be in August, but think about how the eclipse season doesn't just start from one moment to the next. It doesn't just wake up one morning and go, "Good morning, everyone, I'm here. We're in the eclipse season." Think about how the energy slowly starts stretching and waking up and having its coffee. And then little by little, the energy starts to build. So this full moon is really the beginning of that process. We're entering the eclipse portal. We have two eclipses in August. That's August 12th and August 28th. First, we're going to have a solar eclipse at the new moon, and then we're going to have a lunar eclipse on the full moon. But we're going to talk more about that later because we're really going to focus on this upcoming Aquarius full moon in this video. If you have planets or important points in your chart between 2 and 9 degrees of the fixed signs, definitely pay attention. This full moon is really activating your chart. So between 2 and 9 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, the fixed signs. So you're probably going to feel the themes of this full moon even more personally. So, what is a full moon about? A full moon is always a time of illumination. The moon is completely full of light. She's pregnant with light. And because there's more light in our sky, we can see more. It's pretty simple, right? So it's a time of revelations. It's a time of seeing. It's a time of awarenesses. We see things about ourselves. We see things about other people. We see things that maybe we weren't able to see before, but now that there is more light, we can see things better. And sometimes this can even include things that we rather not see. But that is really the point of the full moon because full moon, they bring awareness, they bring clarity and realizations, and they bring things out into the open. Um, and it's even a kind of a funny thing how I don't know if this happens to you. It happens to me every month. I end up sleeping less around the full moon. And I've actually heard this from many people because think about the symbolism of this moon that is pregnant with light. It's like the lights are on, right? The moon is saying, we're not sleeping tonight. We got things to look at. We got things to process. Now, because this full moon on the 29th is happening in Aquarius, many of the themes of Aquarius are about friendships, our communities, our friends, the organizations and groups that we belong to, our social groups, our social life, social media, technology, AI, anything related to collective movements or collective causes. And Aquarius is also about our vision for the future. Aquarius' job is to pull us towards the future. That's why it has a lot to do with revolution and rebellion and originality and thinking outside the box. Aquarius also reminds us that we don't exist in isolation. We are all a part of something bigger, a much bigger web, right? So don't be surprised if you are um, reflecting on the people that surround you. So are your friendships still aligned? You know, the communities that you belong to, that you're a part of, do you feel like it still resonates with you? You know, are you finding your people? So there's a lot here about the people around us, our friendships, our groups, right? Maybe realizing that you might have outgrown certain people or certain environments, certain groups, because Aquarius is always asking us, okay, where do I belong here? Right? How can I contribute to something greater than myself? Um, because of the Leo quality to this full moon, this is also about leadership. You know, so is there something that you might be stepping into? Some sort of a leadership role, some sort of a new role that requires a certain level of visibility, or simply, yes, leading the community. On a collective level, Aquarius rules everything that has to do with internet or social media platforms, technology, including technological breakthroughs, AI, scientific discoveries, anything related to space exploration, innovation. So I really wouldn't be surprised if we hear major news involving those things, involving AI, involving new technologies, involving cybersecurity. You know, there can't be something major happening, scandals or social media companies or any sort of collective movements that can capture the world's attention. Aquarius often bring breakthroughs, right? But sometimes these breakthroughs can come after some sort of a disruption first, especially because Pluto is very much a part of this full moon, right? Pluto's job is to uncover what's been hidden. So it's a time where we can see secrets coming to light. Think about the light of the full moon, hidden agendas that might be exposed, you know, scandals can surface, and even information that has been one way or another buried that may suddenly, you know, come to light, and it may be impossible to ignore. And a lot of this could be about our leadership, our leaders. Those are, you know, the Leo, the ones that are in charge. So this could be in a collective level, right? Our leaders in our cities, in our states, in our countries, but this could also be in our local community as well. Again, so this could bring major revelations involving governments, involving technology companies, social media platforms, AI, all sorts of scientific discoveries. And Pluto can illuminate truths within our friendships and communities and all sorts of group dynamics. And this could lead to power struggles. You know, there's this opposition between Pluto and Jupiter. So, you know, again, Leo represents leadership, visibility, and confidence and creativity in our own self-expression, right? This could also be about celebrities. Leo is very much about celebrity culture and even royalty. Um, so again, this axis is about who is leading, that's the Leo, and the Aquarius part is who's the community following. So this full moon can really highlight the dynamics between the leaders and the collective. So think about this on a macro scale, but also on, you know, your local in a micro scale. So a lot about the individual power versus the needs of the group. Um, and because Jupiter is in Leo, you know, Jupiter is going to be in Leo now for a whole year. Everything gets amplified. So even our leaders can become even more visible, even more on the spotlight, for better or for worse. You know, public figures receive enormous attention. And this could lead to a lot of, you know, inspiring others. That's Leo at its best. It's about inspiring others. But, you know, especially with this opposition to Pluto, it can lead to also a lot of criticism. Um, Another level to this that I want to bring is the Leo that speaks about children. It speaks about creativity and joy and even romance and hobbies and all the projects that are coming from our heart. So this full moon may bring important developments involving those things, involving your children, involving your pets, or something that you might be um, pouring your heart into. Maybe it's a creative project that's reaching a turning point. Maybe it's something you've been working on that finally is receiving some sort of recognition or maybe some sort of a breakthrough that gives you the confidence to finally put, your work into the world or take the next step. And since Pluto is involved, that there can be powerful new revelations that change how you see one of these areas in your life. Um, this axis of Leo Aquarius asks us to find balance, right? So Leo reminds us that each person, each individual has unique gifts and deserves to shine. Each one of us carry the light of our being, that is this unique light of our being and our creative power and our sense of purpose in this world. The other side of this axis, Aquarius, reminds us that those gifts are ultimately meant to serve something bigger than ourselves. And if every one of us do our Leo, if every one of us act on our creative purpose and create and birth something into the world, we are ultimately helping to build a grid, which is Aquarius, where everyone has a say, everyone has space, everyone gets to be themselves. And then when we come together, it's very much that round table sort of thing where we create something much bigger together. Um, but on the other side, if we are too much on the Leo side of things, we can become self-centered. But too much Aquarius, we can risk losing our individuality in order to fit into the crowd. So think about how this full moon can help us to figure it out where we are in this process. Maybe we are too much in the Aquarius, maybe we are too much in the Leo. So, how can I express my authentic self while also contributing to my community, right? That is the highest expression of this energy. How can I let my light shine without forgetting that we're all part of the same earth. We're all under the same sky, right? So that's one of the invitations of this full moon. Another important thing here is the asteroid Hygeia. Hygeia is has everything to do with health and prevention and healing. Now, it brings those themes to this full moon as well, but please don't panic. Please don't automatically think there's going to be some sort of a health crisis situation. But it is good for all of us to be extra mindful around health. Same thing around children, same thing with pets, and especially if this full moon is really activating your chart, maybe it's a good thing to keep a little closer eye on them and yourself as well. Leo has a lot to do with the heart, so cardiovascular health is really important here. Um, so because this full moon, there's a certain level of intensity and tension to this full moon. It's a louder day, so to speak. So I think it's in our best interest to be more attentive and to not push ourselves too hard. Um, Listen to your body, get enough rest. Even if you are feeling so great and inspired by whatever you're up to, make sure you get proper sleep. Make sure you take a little bit of time to rest, support your immune system, eat nourishing foods, all the things that can help you um, rest. And cardiovascular, also about healthy fats. When we're working with this Leo Aquarius axis, it's a really really great time for all of us to pay also extra attention to our brains. That's Aquarius, brain health, the nervous system. So Hygeia doesn't have to point to illness, but she does point to awareness. So she's asking us, is there something in our daily routine that maybe I've been ignoring? Maybe that I could do something better, even a small habit that could have a big impact on your long-term health, right? So Hygiea teaches us that prevention is the greatest medicine of all. If you've never heard of Hygiea, if you want to get to know her a little bit more, I'm actually teaching a class on Hygiea at Synchronicity University on August 7th, which is the following Friday. And I hope to see you there. And another important player in this full moon, you see, there's so much going on. There's so many different players and themes. But another very important player here is Juno, the asteroid Juno. Juno has everything to do with relationships and partnerships. Juno is about our commitments. What are we married to, and who are we married to? So it brings up themes of equality and trust and shared power. So this is about romantic relationships, absolutely, but she's about, business partnerships. She's about collaboration. She's about contracts and any relationship that you have that is built on mutual commitment. So here it also speaks because Juno, um, is an Aquarius with this moon in Aquarius and Pluto in Aquarius. There's a lot here again about our friends, right? About our social communities and our things. How are are things fair? Is there reciprocity? How are boundaries? Are there shared responsibilities? All of these things that are important to be considered. And it can lead to, again, power struggles. It can lead to arguments. It can lead to tension. So as you know, when we have a more tense sky, I think one really good suggestion is always to pick your battles wisely. Don't fight unless you really have to. And because Pluto is involved, again, as I mentioned, things that are hidden don't stay hidden for very long. So this is secrets. This could be manipulation. This could be things happening behind closed doors. So this full moon might shine the light on those things, might expose things. And this we may have to deal with some of those things that are not necessarily easy breezy. Um, um, so remember that Pluto's job is to bring us into the underworld, even though that sounds terrifying. But Pluto asks us to face the parts of ourselves that we rather avoid, the parts of our relationships, the parts of anything in our lives that is no longer working, fears, limitations, the feeling of not being good enough or smart enough or whatever enough. So all those places that we have given our power away, these places where we might have tried to control things because deep down we feel not enough. We feel powerless. So it brings up these unconscious survival patterns to into the light. But the wisdom here is not because we're being punished, it's because there's something that is now ready to be transformed and up level. So when we have this combination of Juno Pluto, which is very, very powerful, these two have been walking together for months now, and they will continue to do so until around the end of November. But this full moon is really activating them. So it's saying to us, if we want to transform our relationships, if we want to transform our partnerships, including a partnership with a project, a relationship that you have with something that you've been working on, with your work, with your job, with your friend, with your partner, etc., with your family, your children, there's something here about we have to first willing to look deep within, right? Do the therapy, do the shadow work, have the honest conversations, have the courage to really have the radical self-awareness and that willingness to meet parts of ourselves that we would much rather avoid because, because they can be quite difficult, but that's where the healing begins. So when I speak about Juno, I speak about how she's very much the archetype of the wounded queen that still remembers her throne because in her story, in her myth, she goes through a lot with her husband Zeus, Jupiter. So to me, Juno speaks about reclaiming our sovereignty, not through control or domination, but through truth and integrity and vulnerability and healthy boundaries and authentic empowerment. So it's really that walking back, the finding our way back to our own inner throne. And when we change inside, of course, the world outside of us changes too. So this full moon, don't be surprised if you see major revelations collectively. Pluto's loves to uncover what's been hidden. And then one last thing that I want to mention is that on the same day of the new moon, I'm sorry, the full moon, because we don't have enough going on that day, on the same day, we have this square between the planet Venus and Mars. You're forming an exact square. Mars is in Gemini, Venus is in Virgo, and this can amplify the friction around relationships, around communication, also around finances. Venus in Virgo is very much about money. So financial management, budgeting, any sort of financial resources management in general. Mars in Gemini wants to talk, right? And then talk some more. Maybe argue a little bit while we're at it. And Venus in Virgo wants the facts, right? The details, the practical solutions. She wants to organize things. So conversations this day, we have to be extra careful here because they can either become very critical or reactive or argumentative. So again, pick your battles wisely and before reacting to someone's comment, one suggestion is to pause, ask a question before making assumptions. And not every disagreement needs to become a debate. But again, some of the revelations that we might see in the world might be also financial themes going on. And going back to the potential for arguments with this Jupiter-Pluto opposition, think about how Jupiter believes deeply in its truth, right? In its beliefs and convictions. And Pluto is about power and having power or misusing power. So this opposition can lead to ideological battles, people pushing their beliefs onto you a little too hard, their agenda. They try to convince you of something that is, their truth that needs to be your truth as well. Or we might be on the other side of it where we're doing that to other people, right? So again, it's a time to pick our battles wisely, but to also stay curious, to listen, to keep learning, and to not try to win every argument. Jupiter is also connected to growth, right? And abundance. And here, this combination can also see, as I mentioned, any sort of economic policies and the global economy or the banking system. So anything related to taxes or yes, anything related to the global economy can also come to light during this day. And it doesn't mean it's something negative, but it does suggest that these themes of money, power, resources can become part of the conversation during this full moon. So as you notice, this is a really packed day. This is a powerful full moon. It's opening the eclipse portal. It's activating Pluto, Jupiter, Juno, Hygeia, It's happening right on the same day as the Venus-Mars square. So pay attention to whatever unfolds around this time for you, the insights you receive, the conversations you have, the people who suddenly show up or maybe disappear. It's really already setting up the stage for what the eclipse season is about to reveal, to bring into existence. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this information is very useful to you. And if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do so so you don't ever miss an update. Thank you, and I will see you next time.